This streetcar stop was at the center of the Walnut Hill community. It started off as a suburb for Omaha. Many families moved here because of the cheap land and connection to downtown Omaha. This picture is of the Mercer Mansion and was the crown jewel of this neighborhood. It was built in 1885 and set the tone for architecture in the neighborhood. The first streetcar was actually horse-drawn and later switched to electric. There was also a railroad that ran just south of the street stop called the Beltline, which was an inner-city railroad placed around the border of Omaha. There were many shops, and one famous one was the Martin's Bakery, which today is the Hargis Instrument Shop, a theater, and the site for our project design. The neighborhood has seen reinvestment from its community.
My family moved down on 38th in Hamilton in July of 1969. I was in 5th grade and I went to St. Cecilia's Cathedral from 5th grade through high school. Okay. And then on to college after that, and then I moved back into the neighborhood in 2004.
I have lived in the neighborhood over 50 years myself, but my family's been here since mid-20s, 25 I think, 1925. And I have 4 children, and they all lived in the neighborhood at one time. So we were 5 generations within one block. It was good. People come out and help each other. Neighborhood cleanup in this neighborhood is one of the best. I mean, it is the way that people come out and help everybody. But it's that kind of a neighborhood. Right. So, and that's what I like about it.
In the streetcar, I mean, it was really cool. The streetcar would go to a certain area and then they would turn around, like, you know, and then it would come back down, and you know, so. And I can remember the Martin family like it was yesterday. And as I was walking past, I was just like, oh my God, this is just bringing back memories, because it'll be on your right when you go back in, but on the left I saw where you would go down into the basement. I'm just like, oh my God, I remember going down in there, you know, and flour and all this other stuff. It was just bizarre.
One thing that's just struck me about the neighborhood in talking with folks is there's generational buy-in in this community. So the building that we're sitting in now, if you talk to 3 residents, there's probably 1 or 2 of them at least that could tell you what this building used to be. In fact, Hargis Musical Instruments was a bakery, so people often talk about the donuts that they used to get across the street, and that was their family favorite time to come over and get donuts. But it's really interesting, I think really special about the neighborhood that there is such a genealogy in terms of heritage and people growing up in the neighborhood, or being 2nd or 3rd generation growing up in the neighborhood and remembering what these buildings used to be. I think that's unusual. People seem to move around quite a bit more than that. But people love it here, and we're just honored and blessed to be a part of it with them.
The biggest challenge I see for this area is succeeding. And that sounds kind of strange, but you know, everybody has a vision, and then you build on that vision. But people, you know, a lot of people, when they come to, whether it's a small business or whether it's, you know, whatever, they go into something with their eyes wide shut instead of their eyes wide open.
I worked at City Sprouts for about 15 years. I was a director. Mm-hmm. I had so much fun. You gotta take good with the bad. Life's a balance, you know, yin and yang. So, but yeah, I like this, and this reminds me of a smaller town. And John was a big part of it when he moved in, and I don't know what's gonna happen across the street, but at least they didn't tear it down.
rather than take an approach where we're thinking about spaces one-off, like what do we do with this one particular space, we can think about things in terms of how they fit into the larger surrounding neighborhood, and how those pieces can play in with one another to really, sort of capitalize on the strengths that each piece brings. So yeah, step one, I think we can with our neighbors develop a neighborhood plan that really articulates all the pieces that we need, a holistic plan for the neighborhood. But what we've heard some interest in is, I think, just in terms of opportunities for folks to put together small businesses. So if there's a small business incubator in the neighborhood that allows people moderate rents, that they can explore their ideas in terms of business development, that could be just an initial thought to put that together. At the community center catty corner, if you want to think about what that space can be in correlation to that, at the community center we'll do a lot of youth programming, so after school programming, but we'll also likely have a great deal of adult programming from GED to ESL to citizenship classes. We also have workforce development programming as well to get people situated into job opportunities. So maybe those two places could work together.
I see this area, as long as people are going towards and working and seeing their vision, it's going to be fantastic. I really do, and I love all the old buildings that they're trying to keep the character of these buildings the way they are versus what they've done downtown, in Jobbers Canyon, and they just demolished it, and it's like you just took away 200 years of history. And history is what our lives is based on.
Also, the Walnut Hill Park that has the MUD Reservoir, it's a kind of a mountainous space next to the Walnut Hill Park. There's some opportunity there's some conversations happening with developers to renovate that space into maybe some commercial space or additional housing. But I think those are probably what's next likely for the Walnut Hill area.
You need a grocery store. You need something to bring people together, and like the Radio Cafe and Magnolias and stuff like that. We are in the middle of a food desert.
I think, and this is me because I'm a foodie. I think that along this corridor there needs to be something similar to the Radio Cafe, which is just on the other side of Cummings Street. And granted, that's still in this little neighborhood, but I think we need something here to, represent this community, in this, like you said, north and a little bit west and east and so on, that shows what, cultures. There's so many different cultures that live in this neighborhood versus when it first started out.
But the exciting part is I think there's more and more families buying property in the neighborhood.
I think so.
Not to rent out, but to live in.
Which is key.
Yeah, it is key.
And they were talking about a youth center of some type for activities. That's what I'd like to see here.
For the future, particularly with Walnut Hill, we'd love to get that neighborhood plan together so that we can make sure that it's just not our ideas in common in terms of where the neighborhood should go, but we've co-created a plan with the neighborhood. But I imagine that will entail some affordable housing. Again, because we talked about that earlier, but we hear that quite often, not just in terms of affordable housing, but quality housing for the neighborhood, both in terms of rental housing and to be purchased, owner-occupied housing. So I think that'll be a major thing that could happen in the neighborhood. And we've heard from a lot of neighbors that there are not a lot of youth-oriented activities for kids in the area. There's some, but the only playground in the area is the public school playground. So seeing if with neighbors we can partner together in installing a playground in the neighborhood, maybe some athletic space in the community.
I get figured out again from the turn of the century, it may be the oldest building. It says in the 1890s.
1890.
And I've looked in the city directories, I've looked in fire maps, that it appears that it had just been many things. Found out that through that little article that there was a two-story building above it, which they tore down after the fire. So that supports the fact that that had to have happened in about 1918, is when they took the top down, which I thought, you know what, and as many times I've thought about it, and that was a discovery thought, yeah, the top, the two-story apartment. And you could see in the article, the two-story. And then you could still look inside of it, look up, you can still see the charcoal. I think not really having any photos or any, fabric to figure out what did it really look like, right? Not really in an example, but finding these telltale signs of like, that had to have been there. This must have went around that, right? Say it real fast, jumping off it. What I think the neatest thing about this whole building is, I don't know, 25% of fixtures, like these fixtures there, those are original. Those lights behind your head are original. Things that you could find from the turn of the century,
So after meeting with some amazing architects at BVH and listening to the feedback that we got from the community members and community organizers on what they would like to see in this area, we decided to make the upper level a grocery store and also have a catering kind of fast food option for people to grab food on the go. And downstairs, what you're seeing now would be potentially an art gallery to really help bring local artists to the forefront and to give them a space to showcase their work. And hopefully from there, they'd be able to become independent and really thrive here in this amazing community and space.
Chris, I see you. I see you. I see you.